girl fell in love. That girl died, but then she came back. Came back a total dick.
Oh, please. He left out some important information, but that is the gist of it.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to Paws On Animation. Welcome to our channel.
Yes. And today we're covering the critically acclaimed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Now this film serves as the end of the Guardians trilogy, with the crew on a mission to save Rocket's life after the High Evolutionary, a figure from Rocket's past, is hunting him down.
And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification for future podcasts and all the pause videos.
Now we have the return of the original cast, plus a few extras. So quickly I'll go down the cast list. Your favorite Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillian, Palm Clementif, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Will Poulter, Sean Gunn, Claude Iwuji, Linda Cardinelli, Nathan Fillion, and Sylvester Stallone.
Big star cast.
And it was not only critically acclaimed, but also a box office success.
Yes.
With a budget of $250 million, grossing over $845 million worldwide.
True. And it looks like this follows the pattern right now from Marvel. For every 5 movies and 5 shows that flop, they would have one big hit that felt more like the older Marvel movies prior to Endgame and Infinity War. You had No Way Home, you had, I think, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and now we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
And one of the reasons for the success is probably because it was written and directed by James Gunn. It's probably a little easier when you're the writer and director to get your ideas across in a film than giving it to one person who has decided what it's going to be and then telling the director, I don't care about your vision, this is what I want you to do.
Right.
So it probably was a huge plus that he did both for this movie.
Right, I think so too. And considering this is his last movie, and now he's going to DC to reboot the film cinematic universe again, they pretty much lost a heavy hitter here. And I mean, it's great that he went out with a bang with his last Marvel movie, but it's also a little sad because, you know, Guardians are now over if you get to the end of the movie, and it does have a majority happy ending, which, you know, is the end of pretty much this version of the team, you know, and a lot of them have gone on to do other things more with their life, because after having a Rocket, they really want to do more in their lives.
Now, this particular movie actually was released almost a month earlier in Paris at Disneyland.
Oh, wow.
It was released in the U.S.
Why do they have stuff up early?
So they knew that it was going to be a success based on the reaction in Paris, it being a critical and commercial success.
So, with this one, all 3 movies right now are considered one of the best trilogies of Marvel right now. Because a lot of them you think would stop at 3, and then them having 4, and now 5 movies, they just keep going.
Well,
but it looks like
they stop, because you know Disney is on this kick now. Hopefully they stop with this and don't try to do it for it.
Hopefully, because the way it concludes, it feels like an ending. Like with Toy Story and some other ones they've done, it feels like, okay, this is really the end. I think you can stop with the story.
Toy Story, because there's now a Toy Story 5.
Yeah,
so we'll
it's
just
like
keep our
3.
fingers crossed that they leave it alone.
They got lucky with 4, but we don't need 5. But with this one, it felt like at least a complete journey with all 3 films. And for what it looks like, all 3 films were well received. I think my favorite is still the first one. The second was sort of like in the middle, not just because of the middle of the trilogy, but it was just like there were some good things, there were some bad things, and they had like a mixed reaction. But you can tell they were really putting on all the stops for the third one by making it more emotional and not trying to just hit all the buttons that Disney normally does to get people to feel bad, like kill off the parents or have a tragic backstory and all that. There is a tragic backstory, but the backstory is part of the movie, and more of Rocket's past is revealed throughout the film.
I think what I like the most about this movie is that each character really got focus in the movie.
That's true.
And it didn't feel like it was okay, we gotta give this one focus. We gotta do this. Like it was an effort. Somehow it flowed where each one got their focus.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Gamora that's not the Gamora we know
Right.
got a little focus. And you see that happen a lot in anime, but unfortunately not a lot in American movies, whether it's
Right.
live action or animated. But in here, everyone got focus.
Right.
And they got the right amount of focus. And you didn't
Right.
feel like if there's a character that's your favorite or you like, they got cheated in the end.
Right.
Everyone got almost an equal amount of coverage,
Mm-hmm.
including telling parts of the backstory that weren't known.
Right.
You got to see character growth in each and every member,
Right.
and you got to see how they're going to be doing in the future, or what they're going to be doing, I should say.
Yes.
It's not left to chance where you're just going to guess what happened. As you said, they closed the book, and this is a fitting ending. So again, hopefully they don't decide to come back and, oh, it made so much money, let's do a 4, because then you're going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, you would do with that. So, yes, and I'm really glad you brought that up because the movie, now that you brought it up, the movie is slightly over 2 hours. It's not a 3-hour movie, but it almost hits it. And it's amazing how all of this was brought up in the movie. Backstory, character growth, side plots, and a conclusion. And all of it was done without feeling like they were either trying to drag it out and putting stuff in that wasn't necessary to make it work, or rushing it because it's meant to be something much longer and they were trying to hurry up and make the arcs and the storyline go fast and finish before the movie was over. It all worked out somehow where all these things were going on and it worked as one complete story. And especially when you have Rocket's backstory, and this is probably the part that got people the most, they didn't expect it to be not only told that well, but actually make a lot of people cry like you're watching Bluey and seeing just about how messed up his backstory is before he joined the Guardians. And they even bring back the joke where he keeps saying he's not a raccoon, don't call him a raccoon. And you finally see, yes, he's a raccoon. And he couldn't even say anything like, yes, you're a raccoon. It was like some mild humor in it.
He's big box office theatrical Rigby.
Yes.
And yes, that was actually probably the central driving force of the movie.
Yes.
Is his backstory.
Yes, you're right. Because something attacks him pretty early on in the film, and you're kind of thinking, oh, he's going to be in the back seat now after the advertisements are lying, but they don't. It is part of it, but he's like seriously hanging on to his life, and they're trying to keep him alive while find the source of who caused it and stop them. So, and you do see that they all do care about him, including Star-Lord. And I think it was probably a challenge for them to get people to like Star-Lord again, because ever since Infinity War and Endgame, people have just kind of hated this character because he caused the blip to happen because of with Thanos and having a grudge against him. So he became sort of a mini punching bag for Marvel and Marvel fans to just ridicule, beat up, hit over the head, treat like crap, or even in the What If, where he had no powers, no purpose, the child was better, and they kind of just ran into the ground where how much he was hated to the point where he was no longer needed, nearly killed him. And I'm guessing James Gunn or someone else said, hey, I think we're kind of getting carried away with tearing down the character. No, he's not perfect. No, yes, he made mistakes, but I think it's time to show that he's not completely heartless. He's not a jerk as much as they've hammered it into these memes and the other movies by showing when he says Rock is his best friend, he really means it because he's traveling all across the galaxy to stop this guy from killing him. So I think that was a pretty good type of redemption for the character to show that they can still write him complexly without resorting to just him being all jokes and laughter or being arrogant or being a jerk to a point where you can't stand it.
Definitely. And he, to me, has one of the most satisfying endings in this movie. You loved it. It was perfect.
Yes, unexpectedly.
And it was so simple, slice of life, but you got some questions answered and you were actually happy for him at the the end.
Yes.
Now, the worst thing for him in this movie, unfortunately, is Gamora is not his Gamora.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
it affects how he's leading. It affects how he reacts when things go wrong. But he ends up having to learn. He's going to have to get over it and move on.
Right.
And then accept the Gamora that's here. And that's it.
Yeah.
And finally, almost at the end of the movie, he realizes that that's how it's going to have to be. He can't make her be into the person
Right.
he's in love with.
Right.
And she didn't want to be. And she told him, I'm not her and I don't want to be her. That was the end of it.
Yeah.
So you also see that he isn't power hungry, controlling.
Right.
Like some people in real life. He's like, okay, I'm going to have to let this go. And he ends up, you can see he's on his way to doing that. Which also was a big character development
Yes.
for him, because he's kind of like in the first movie, he's like a bratty child.
Yeah.
In the second movie, he's found out more about his backstory, and he's not too happy to find out some of the darkness that's there. In Infinity War, he makes a big mistake. He gets a lot of hate. But in this one, you can see he's grown as a character, as a person, more matured, and he's learning to just be the best Peter he can be. I know that sounds trope, but that is how this ends up coming out.
Right. And you're absolutely right. And you like that this movie didn't focus on trying to tick a box, trying to go through the motions or the tropes Disney demands in having all the movies across the board, even outside of the Disney animation studio. They told a story. They told a great story, a compelling story, left out all of the stuff that they usually put in their films and the having the woman be the boss and everything. They didn't do that in here. There were strong women, but they didn't take over the film, steal the spotlight from Rocket or anything like that. All that stuff people didn't want to see were kept out, and as you can see, the rare times it happens, it makes a box office smash.
Definitely.
And it's just so baffling that Disney doesn't understand. Keep this part going, you keep getting money, but they're determined to show that one day their way is gonna make
they
money.
Understand? They just want it their way.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for the people, it's for the Disney execs.
Right.
So now Gamora, this version that's here, she is not all bad. It kind of seems like she is.
Right.
But then you learn she isn't.
Right.
And she's probably going to end up being a better person having met the Guardians of the Galaxy when it's all said and done. So I'll put it that way short. But I think Zoe Saldana did a great job in portraying two different versions of herself.
Yeah.
And you weren't looking at her going, okay, this is Gamora. Actually, when I was looking at it, I never thought that, because she's a whole different person and her acting conveyed that.
Right.
So you weren't confusing her with the former Gamora, because she really wasn't her in her behavior, her attitude, and she really projected that very well.
Right.
Dave Bautista, Drax.
Right. Going to be in really heavy comic relief of Mantis, but it wasn't annoying or facepalm or the way they've been doing where they're trying to make every single joke make you laugh. They just let it naturally happen and you just ended up laughing. I do like that. They just kept it natural.
And Nebula, as I mentioned, everyone had character growth. She really stepped up and took control when she needed to, when he told her to. She was great being a leader. She has developed a lot of empathy. She has become a team player. And I love when you see character growth in ones that are deemed to be not so good. And you find out that her sister's death really did have an effect on her.
Yes. And it's almost like she and Gamora have switched places in terms of how their character acts and grows. Gamora was reset mostly to the time before she met the other characters, so that explains her personality shift. And then Nebula has spent now chronologically years with these characters since the second Guardians movie through Infinity War and others, spent more time with them and has grown to be more compassionate. Still has trouble socializing outside of that group, but you can tell she's trying. She actually has a moral fiber. She actually is trying to do better, not being like Thanos and becoming a hero. And
Mantis had a similar type of growth.
Right,
as well.
because she was considered like not really useful outside of the empathy thing in the second movie, so they made sure she had a purpose in here and had her work along with Drax, so she wasn't just there to be there because, oh wait, this character exists, and I do like that.
And last but not least, Groot.
Yes.
Who actually didn't have a lot of focus in this movie. He had enough, but he wasn't central. And
Right.
a lot of times, especially in the first and the second, I think because of his design and him being voiced by Vin Diesel and bringing him across all of these things, he kind of took a back seat until later in the movie.
Yeah.
And it was a wise decision because when he needed to be there, he was there. And then you get to see yet another, I don't say conversion, yet another side of Groot in here as well.
Right. And he still says that I am Groot, and you can tell his design is getting closer to the version you've seen in the first movie. It's like he went through the awkward teen phase and everything in the other film, so where he gets to be this giant big tree again. And it's also different because he's not with Rocket, so he's kind of now on his own or slowly interacting with other characters who more or less understand what he's saying. Rocket usually does, so I guess they were also trying to work that in where it was like they're just ignoring him, but he would still have a purpose in there without just saying, well, we're gonna put him away until much later, or the other way around, put them all in here and then not use them later.
And the last but not least, as far as the additional characters, having more than one villain. And a villain who actually, I don't want to say,
was a threat.
a villain who actually changed sides. There we go.
Yeah,
one who was a threat and was never going to change, and one who was a threat and ended up changing sides.
See, Disney, you're having when you have actual villains and two different types of villains. So yes, one would be, you said, High Evolutionary, who was the really central antagonist. Then you had Adam Warlock, who was ironically considered like a sort of live-action Star Boy, and it's absolutely hilarious. And you thought he was a threat because of how it opened up with him looking for Rocket and not anybody in his way. But then after he's defeated temporarily and he's with the mom and everything, it's like, oh, he's like a teenager. He's like confused on a lot of things, just doing what he's told. He's like, okay, you're going kind of far. Can we please stop this? So, like you said, it gets into him switching sides towards the end of the film once he sees that they're crazy as heck. They're not doing what he was told they were supposed to be doing on helping the planet, and this would cause him to join up with the Guardians. And then you have High Evolutionary.
Right. And he's just wicked and evil, and he presents himself like a lot of villains have done in history as being someone who you could trust and has good intentions for the world. But whenever you keep hearing someone talking about they want to change the world, they want to change society, and they have an incredible amount of power, usually end up being the villain.
Yeah.
And so did he.
Yep. And his whole thing was
And
to create.
cruel.
Yes.
Very cruel.
And his whole thing was to create a perfect society. And his perfect society looked really off, and they actually made it work where he wanted the animals to evolve to look, walk, and act human-like. He's mutilated and mutated Earth animals and other aliens and made them unlike what they are in their regular animal forms to make them and make them anthropomorphic and force them to be anthropomorphic. And you see how Rocket ended up becoming Rocket Raccoon in this, and the guy is like so sadistic. Like, they don't do like a sympathetic villain or he has a backstory makes you think he's an anti-hero. They don't do any of that mess they've been doing ad nauseum. He is the villain, straight up villain. His behind gets taken out at the end. There's no redeeming. They're like, get rid of this guy, he's blasphemous and everything. So it's like, okay, he's out.
So everything in this movie worked together. It deserved all the acclaim and praise and high ratings that it got. It's definitely an A movie, which right now is a rarity for anything that comes out of Marvel.
Yeah.
Because they're crapping over and screwing over everything. But this definitely would have to be called the last great movie that Marvel released.
Right.
It deserves that title. And James Gunn, good on you. Because
Yes.
you left on a positive note.
Yes.
And We're expecting more great things on this level.
Yes,
from your
because
future project.
this
Even with the sun.
yeah, right. And this was like in a way like Voltron with the end. And yes, I know that's a little controversial, but I will say
I love
that,
Voltron.
right? That ending of that show made me cry, and this one I was pretty close to crying because it's like both things really loved watching for years, and they both are ending. It's like, oh.
And I was 7 because I'm like, this can't be the end. Is this how it's going to end for them? They're not going to be together anymore.
Yes.
And it's like, oh.
Right. You're like, please don't go to a sad ending.
But well done. And if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we know you have. Let us know what you think in the comments. Were you happy with how it progressed? Were you happy with the ending? Who's your favorite character? How did you feel about Rocket's backstory and reveal? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't seen it, of course it's available probably on Disney Plus and Hulu, and it's probably available on other streaming services you gotta pay.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's available on other ones because it's such a hit. It's probably not. But if you haven't seen it, get a trial for Disney and leave. Or if you have Disney, watch it. If you haven't, come back and let us know what you think.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates to weekly videos for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And feel free to like this video and please share it on social media. It helps our channel a lot. And we really appreciate you, subscribers and friends and family. You mean a lot to us.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.